Hi everybody, and welcome back to the repo. So today I'm making just a simple video where I explain to you how I work with Claude Code. So all of these AI tools, I work with them as if I was approaching an engineering problem the same way as if I was working manually. And what this means essentially is that, I find the right docs, I make sure the repo is properly set up, and when I'm implementing features, I make sure I'm planning these features. So what you will need for this repo, let's go back here to Claude Code. You will need Claude Code installed, and you will need a subscription or an API key already set up into Claude Code. I'm not going to show you how to do those. They're quite easy to do. So if you've not done those, pause the video and come back. All right. Now that we're ready, let's go over a bit the details of what we'll do. The first step is that we'll show you two ways of starting Claude. Pretty simple. After this, we'll figure out how to give access to documentation so that Claude can work on more modern stuff. We'll see how to properly initialize a repository so that Claude knows its way around the code. And lastly, I'll just give you an overview of how to start making a feature. Okay, so here, let's jump over to my editor. Starting Claude is actually pretty simple, but you need to know a bit the nuances. Obviously, you will want to be inside your terminal. Claude Code is a terminal-based coding assistant, and the only command that you need to start it is Claude. One nuance here. If you're feeling edgy, and a lot of people will actually do this, is you will add this flag here, dangerously skip permissions. What this does is that it will let Claude run automatically without asking you for permission before doing any action. If you're feeling edgy, this might be what you feel like you should be doing, but be careful. You should be setting up your repo properly before doing this, and this is what we'll do now. So this is how you start Claude. But when you land into a new repo, you first need to make sure that Claude can read documentation. And I'm not talking about just documentation about this specific repo, but documentation of its dependencies, of other projects that are consumed inside that repo. For example, if I'm building an application which contains a website, I will want to read the docs on React, on Next.js, on Next.auth. So for example, all of these libraries, they are updated. So you need documentation to be live. So this second step, we'll be using Context 7, which I shared in a video, I think around 6 months ago, but we'll just do a little bit of a review. So Context 7, the first thing is that you want to be logged in. You can log in with Google, with GitHub, pretty easy. And once you are on the landing page here, just so you understand what Context 7 does, it is an MCP server. So think of it as a tool that Claude can use. Claude can use a lot of different tools. But this one specifically is a tool that lets it read up-to-date documentation about many frameworks. Let's take an example. This Gale framework that I'm working on currently is a Solana front-end library that was released quite recently. So there's not a lot of training data on it. So this is why you want Context 7 to give Claude up-to-date docs so that it can know about the recent changes. So what you'll do, once you're on Context 7, you will go to this dashboard here. You will go to the API key section and you will generate a new one. Obviously, try to steal this one. It's going to be changed 2 seconds after I do this video, as always. So we will just note this API key somewhere. I'll just leave it here for now. I just need to have access to it. And then I will go to the Context 7 MCP server GitHub, and there will be links in the description as always. And I will scroll down until I find the instructions for install Claude Code. Let me find them. There we are. I will be using the remote connection, so I will copy over this instruction. All this instruction does, if we go to our editor here, is that it calls Claude MCP add, and then it tells it which MCP server address to call for it. I will erase the API key. I'll put it right here as I did. And now we are set up. So, okay. So what does this do? Now let's clear our console and start Claude. So what does it mean to have access to this MCP server? Which is, I think, the only server you might need if you're working on something which is just implementing. If you're working on something more complex like data analytics, you'll use other MCP servers. But this one is like the bare minimum. This is the only one you would need for most of your development. So in Claude, just understand that doing / like this gives you access to quick commands. So I just want to call the MCP command here, and I will do enter. This will list the details of the MCP servers that I have working in this repo. So perfect. Now we confirm that we have context 7 here. When working in a new repo, Claude will go a bit crazy at first. So by default, it will try to use npm. But here, as a good example, we have pnpm, which is an alternative JavaScript dependency management framework. So the first thing that you want to do when you are in Claude Code in a new repo is you want to run the init command. So init essentially will go ahead and will tell Claude, we'll do this and I'll explain as it goes. Essentially, Claude, what it will do here, it will read the code base. It will see, okay, here, I am in a README. So for example, this is something we do as a developer. So it's working similarly to an engineer. So I would read, okay, what is GIL? Okay, it's a JavaScript library for the Solana blockchain. Perfect. And then it's going to read a few other details. What is inside the package JSON? Okay, I see that I have a few commands, build, compile docs, tests, which are all commands that Claude needs to use when it is actually performing a development task on the server. So for example, you implement a new feature. I'm going to make a new React hook for reading the balance, for example. Claude needs to know how to test this hook. It needs to understand if it needs to adhere to our specific styling for the code base, which are all things that it will look. If you look, it's reading here the test configs. It's reading a few things about commands that are happening in the repo. It's looking at the configuration for generating new change sets. So all of this is something that if you work with AI and you're not super experienced, you should do yourself. I highly encourage you, look at what Claude is reading and get that context yourself, because this is still a probabilistic model. It will make mistakes. So the init command allows it to learn about your repo, but you should also be learning about these texts because you are still the conductor here. So once this is done, exactly what will happen is that Claude will generate here a claude.md file. This is a single file that you will keep at the root of the repo, and Claude automatically knows to read that file before performing any action. The key here is that Claude will leave itself a few notes. So imagine you're in school, you're learning a new topic, you take notes. You say, okay, this is useful, I want to remember it. Claude is doing the same after its research. It's leaving itself notes for the future. What is the style? What are the commands that are useful? What are the versions I should be using? As an example, we mentioned this is using pnpm. It found it out by itself, because it's not a person. So take the time to yourself also learn this repo. Don't trust it to be perfect, but lean on it to go faster. But still make sure you properly understand these things yourself. So now we are ready to roll. We have information in the claude.md. We understand the repo ourselves, and we're connected to the latest docs with context 7. How would I go about making a new task? So the first thing I'd like to do is let's give it an example. So here I'm in this GIL package. There are two main packages. One of the main ones is to communicate with the Solana blockchain, and this is the actual GIL package. And another one is a convenience wrapper on top of this package, but to consume it in React, so with hooks. So an example feature which we could do, we could say, think of a new hook that people would need in the React package for common actions in Solana. So when I'm making a new feature, and normally I define the feature a little bit better, so I'm really just making an example here. But there's another thing to know. You will want to change Claude into plan mode. And the keys for this are Shift Tab. If you do Shift Tab one time, it will put on auto edits to be accepted. If you do it a second time, here at the bottom, you see I've activated plan mode. So plan mode is interesting because plan mode will allow you to tell to Claude, look ahead, please plan, don't just wing it. Do a few research. So I will also say, use context 7 if you need to read React documentation. All right, let's give it a time to run. So as I'm implementing my task, I use this plan mode as a way to automate that research. It will act as an engineer. It will try to see what's already in place. It will go into the other Gale package to see, is there something that exists that is common here that is not implemented into React? It also has the ability to validate with web searches, with context 7. It can call your CLI, for example, to fetch the latest pull requests in a GitHub repository. So all of this to say that this is how you want to work with Claude. You want to use all the tools that it has at its disposal. You want to force it to make a plan. And this plan, we want to review it ourselves. So I'm not going to go over the implementation details of this specific tasks, but if we go back to our little drawing board here, to me, implementing a feature would after pretty much go, I'm just going to update here my numbers so that it makes sense. So my subtask would be make a plan with Claude. And then I would review the plan myself. And then I would guide Claude step by step. And the most important thing, when you're done, before you make this code work, I will review the code myself. So this is not a video about exactly how I implement features. I could make one if you're interested. Maybe I could even make a video where I implement a real feature in the Gale library if you're interested. But this is more to show you the steps of how I work in a new repo. If we go back and we see the plan here, we can see that Claude researched React on MCP. It explained, the plan that it's making. It's still making the plan, but at the end, you will be presented with a finalized plan that you can review and force Claude to tweak it. So this is how you want to work with Claude to avoid AI slop. You want to be the conductor. You don't want to be just a consumer of AI. You want to be a user of AI. You want to make sure that it's properly done. So here we can see there's a few things that Claude is doing in the background. But essentially, that's what I wanted to communicate today. Let me know if you have questions. Let me know if you want a video where I go over a single command, a single implementation of a task. I think I have a good one in the Gale repo, which I could give a good example for. And there you go. Have a great weekend, everybody.